stable on the table. So grab the table with that arm. Yeah, just move across. Move forward on the bench for me. Okay, so we're there. So for extension, remember the concept when we did mammillary pushes, how high they would flex the hip? 70. Let's put them there again. So let's bring your hips up to 70, right about there. And I need her on the front third of the bench. Come a little bit closer because I'm going to block her thigh right there. This now becomes a fulcrum. I want a nice neutral spine. I'm just going to load the shoulders and push them into the table. Open your gown. So I'm going to do extension, mobilization in the upper lumbar spine because mostly that's where the problem of extension restriction is, right? So most people, when they have restrictions, flexion or extensions, the bottom of the lumbar spine is usually a hyperlordotic spine. That's the problem. If they're in extension, they need flexion. If they jam their facets, they need flexion. The upper lumbar spine, the typical posture distortion is this. Right? They're slumped, and what they need is extension. So that's the patterns, but you know, obviously I'm not going to have anything. So anyway, so what we're going to do like an L1, 2. So there's L4, L3, L2, L1. We're going to take either the top bone, or if they have a small spine, just contact both of the motion segments. So it's either going to be L1 or it's going to be L1, 2. Depends on the size of your hand and the size of their spines. So 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll do an L1, 2. I'm going to slide in midline. I'm going to block her here, Just going to have her lean straight back. Lean back for me and just relax. Nice and easy. I'm just going to mobilize into extension. Lean back a little more and just relax and just let it there. So I'm just easing her into extension and mobilizing, 3 to 5 times. Could I do an impulse? Yes. But be careful of loading someone into deep extension and then thrusting into extension. Right. Now, so the thing about extension, I'm going to write these on the board. Okay. What would be a rationale for doing an extension adjustment or extension mobilization? Clinical rationale, clinical reason. Yeah, the first one is always joint restriction. But what's another reason?
Can't flex.
Postural, okay, so they have chronic postural flexion, and probably have joint restriction as well, so they've got posture plus restriction. That's another reason. And we kind of touched upon this, maybe we didn't so much with disc.
Yeah, since it is.
Okay, so with disc injuries, what's the usual postural position?
You want a
Flexion.
You're in an antalgic flexed posture. So with a brand new disc, let's say she injured her disc this morning and she comes in flex, am I going to try to extend her?
No.
Probably not. But now she's subacute or she's chronic disc, and she's got this flexed posture and she's had it because of early, months ago antalgia, but she still stands flexed. So now I can try to extend her, and that's just commonly in the lower lumbar spine because where are most disc herniations?
Lower lumbar.
Where in the lumbar spine?
Lower.
4 and
5.
And then 5. So you do end up doing extension mobilizations at the bottom, but usually it's chronic disc. So it's going to be later, right, with the disc derangement, not earlier. And same thing with facets. Like if you have a facet sprain or facet impaction with a facet syndrome, you go into this. You're a forward flexor antalgic. And as time goes on, right, you're going to extend them. Right? So facet syndromes later. Alright, so multiple reasons that you would do extension mobilizations and not simply just joint restriction. That's cool. Okay? Well, similarly with flexion, what would be reasons you would do flexion?
Joint restriction.
Joint restrictions always at the top. Then what? Spinal stenosis. Okay, yep, spinal stenosis, absolutely. So anything that would be opening up the canal, right? Either the central or lateral canal. So you could also have what?
Lordosis.
Same with the stenosis concept, it could be spinal stenosis or foraminal encroachment, so lateral canal stenosis. The current term is lateral canal. I kept trying to change that on the boards. They're talking about IVF encroachment. Well, the IVF, foramen is a hole, right? right? The lateral canal is a canal. It's actually got a length to it. It's a canal. That's the current term. It's lateral canal. But they wouldn't change it because they had statistics on those questions. And once they have all questions with statistics, they don't want to get rid of them. And as soon as you change the words, it's a new question. So anyway, lateral canal. That's wrong. That's my own fault. Lateral canal. What else?
Like a hyperlordosis.
A what? Or oh. So hyperlord, absolutely. So hyperlordosis with facet. So posture plus restriction. That's restriction. What else? There's lots of these.
Hypertonic paraspinals, like if they're locked in.
Okay.
Like that's a stretch.
So we're talking flexion now.
Yeah,
Flexion as a
so-
stretch. Okay. So we'll say muscle spasm.
This would be nice, right?
What about these two conditions? Early or late?
Be early.
Early for this.
These are early, right? Because these are something you can do to actually decompress these tissues that are inflamed. So you can do an early disc and an early facet syndrome. Which is why I like to spend some time going over these things because, you know, our model here has always been, all right, you got joint restriction, you know, we find it, we fix it. Well, but there's all these other clinical conditions that we use these things for. So, and the great thing is, let's say you don't have a flexion distraction table, right? Because that costs money, but you have a belt, you have a bench, so you can do some of these things with just a bench like this. Okay. So now we're doing flexion. So with flexion, there's both assisted and resisted. So I typically, like I said, I do the assisted at the top half of the spine, but the patient positioning is going to be in flexion. So bend both knees all the way up. There, okay. So now she's in flexion. Now here's her L4, here's her L5. Let's call this an L1-2. I'm up on the top bone. I'm going to come in like this to try to hook her spinous this way so I can go that way with it. So slide in with good tissue fold. Now curl into a ball. So drop just curling. So now I've really got her in flexion, and I'm simply thrusting into flexion. If it was bottom of the lumbar spine, let's say she had facet syndrome or disc, it'd be this way. Or I can come on the bottom of the spine, and I can actually nudge her a little bit and pull her sacrum that way. Which do you feel more of? When I do this or that?
I think the first one, when you're up higher.
When I'm doing this? Do you, when I'm in the bottom of your spine and I do this, you feel tracting that way? Not as much.
No.
With her, she's so elastic, probably what's happening is when she, to get any sort of tension down here, her hips are so flexed that resisted action doesn't really help as much. With some of you that are stiffer, you'll get deflection and you'll feel that the resisted version actually has some effect. All right, questions on flexion and extension. All right, we'll pair up with someone new that you haven't worked with yet.